Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to go ahead and plug the socials real quick. This is almost like my ad reads for myself. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to go check out our YouTube channel. It is no_lions_here. Go give us a like and subscribe there. Now, if you are visiting us here for the first time from YouTube, first off, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate you checking out what we got going on here. And if you are visiting us on YouTube, definitely make sure to go check out Spotify. That's where all my episodes are from the last 2 years, because I have been doing the podcast now for right at 2 years now. So all of my episodes, I think I have 58. I think this is episode 59. Don't quote me on that. Up on Spotify. To go back all the way back to the beginning where I talk about my discovery. Basically, this whole podcast has just been a journey of my recovery over the last, 2.5 years, getting into recovery in 2021, and then not starting the podcast until later on. I think it was probably 6 months after I got out of treatment that I started the podcast. So, definitely go check out my full story from basically the beginning till now. I try to keep up with things as best I can. Which kind of brings me into like my first topic of like I didn't do a new episode last week. I feel like I've been fairly consistent. I mean, actually, overall, let me give myself some credit here. I've been consistent, pretty consistent with everything that I've been doing as far as recording and everything like that. And now that the studio is my own space and I'm in here all the time, like I spend a lot of time here. And if I'm not recording, I'm editing videos, getting stuff sent out, and then also, a lot of the times I'm just here just kind of chilling out. I live with my mom. So this is just kind of like a really nice little safe space for me. But because I'm in here all the time, I feel like all of my material needs to be new and shiny. And that I can't, I've already talked about that, so I can't necessarily go back and talk about that. Now this is just in my head, right? Like nobody's telling me any of this. And so I'm like, if it's not new and shiny in my recovery, then I don't have enough content, I don't have enough material. So basically now I'm going to have to wait and now record a new episode, whenever I feel like I've got some new and shiny things to talk about. And so I can get a little overwhelmed with that, because it's like, all right, I've asked for, I asked for ideas. Every day I end the show with, if there's any topics or anything that you want to hear me discuss on the show, like send them to me. And while I've gotten some really good feedback and people have definitely reached out, like not getting many ideas as far as like topics. So I'm sitting here going like, all right, well, all right, I got to come up with this stuff on my own. I'm really not too sure. Again, it's not new and shiny. I've already talked about that, so I can't talk about it. And so I can get really overwhelmed and kind of almost frustrated with that a little bit. I think it's more overwhelmed, and it can really like stir up my nervous system and just the thoughts in my head. And I was talking to my sponsor earlier this week, Jeff. You guys know Jeff. Go check him out. I've got him on a couple episodes. Really good episodes. Awesome dude. Love the guy so much. Like he's just huge part of my life, huge part of my recovery. Just absolutely awesome guy. Anytime he gets brought up, I feel like I just want to go into that, because he means so much to me, and we have such a great relationship. But I was talking to him earlier this week, and this topic kind of got brought up around like, man, I feel like I'm I'm doing it all alone, which there is a lot that I am doing on my own, and there's things that like really only I can do. Like nobody else can sit in this chair and come on and say, "Hey, I'm a big panda and I'm a recovering sex addict." Like I'm the only one that can do that. I can have guests on and things like that, but so I'm like, man, I feel like I'm going at this alone, even though, like, again, guys, I'm not alone. I know that, right? Like in my head, I've got a lot of love and I've got a lot of support, like especially around the podcast, and just in my life in general. And there's plenty of people that I can reach out to and get their feedback on this. So when I'm in that place of just feeling overly overwhelmed or frustrated, like I put it all on myself. And that, like, again, and this all funnels down to, like, I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. And, those are the old tapes, those old thoughts and old ways of thinking that I need to challenge. And, thank God I've got people in my life that can kind of bring these things up and help me to see them in a different light, in a different perspective. And it just like brings a lot of clarity. So in my conversation with Jeff earlier this week, he was like, well, dude, who cares if you've already talked about it before? Talk about it again. Like, you see this a lot in the rooms. Like one week someone can be dealing with something and the next week, I mean, they could share on that topic again for 2, 3, 4, 5, however meetings they need to, or however many phone calls they need to talk about those things. I mean, I know that I'm guilty of that. Maybe I shouldn't call myself say guilty, because guilt is a big trigger of mine. I've done that though. I mean, if you go back and listen to the early episodes of the podcast, I mean, I think it was just like it was like very Patricia based. And now that I'm kind of moving away from that, but I mean, I couldn't tell you how many phone calls there were where she was the main topic. There were so many phone calls, so many discussions and conversations, and like, so it is okay to continue to talk about these things, even if it is the same thing over and over and over. I know I've felt like this, and I've heard other guys say this too in the program of like, well, I'm afraid that I'm being a broken record and that nobody's going to want to hear me talk about this 100 times. And even Jeff, my sponsor, he's said this to me before. And in those really important and close relationships that we have, like, it is okay to talk about the same thing as many times as you need to, right? And I know for me, it's like, and why I can be kind of tolerant of that is, so for instance, I'm just going to use Jeff for instance, because this has definitely come up with us. He said that, he's like, man, I'm sure you're getting tired. I feel like a broken record. However, like, I know that Jeff is seeking the solution. He's not just, bitching to bitch or complaining because things aren't going his way, right? Like, he's working through things just like I need to work through things. And that's going to take more than one conversation. That's going to take more than one podcast episode to really work through that. And I need to realize that, like, one, it's okay for me to talk about the same things. I know that that's happened many times on here before. But again, I can just get so caught up in my own head, in my own thoughts of, again, it's got to be new. It's got to be fresh. It's got to be entertaining. It's right. Like, it's got to be all these things. And I know that that's like the critic in my head that is, and I think that these, we're talking about little IFS here, the internal family system. I know that some of these players in my head have been, put there for, defense, to keep myself, to protect myself, like things like that. So I don't know necessarily what that is trying to protect me from. those kinds of thoughts. I don't know if it's just maybe I just truly don't have that like strong everyday belief in myself that like it's okay. Like I really, the more that I think about it, I'm really not too sure. And again, like that's okay too, right? Like I know before in the past in my recovery, it's like, oh no, I got to get to the bottom of that right now. Because if I can get to the bottom of this and figure out exactly why this is going on, then I'm going to be able to solve the problem. And that solution, as soon as I get to it, is going to become very clear. So the quicker I can find the root, then the quicker I can find the solution, and then the quicker I can move on and not talk about it anymore because I'm done with it. I'm past that. I've overcome it. I've healed from it. Like I'm good. That was definitely kind of like, I don't know, a driving force for me throughout my recovery. But I will say, with where I'm at today, I don't straight up pick up the shovel like that anymore. It's more or less like, okay, like I see it, I feel it, I'm very aware of it. I need to give it up to God. And over time, this will work itself out. More shall be revealed. That fun saying. And I say fun because sometimes it's not fun. Like sometimes I'm like, I don't want it to be revealed later on. I want it to be revealed right now. And that if I don't get through this right now, like I am not good enough. I'm not doing enough. I've noticed a lot of like fear-based motivation for me. And that it definitely ties into this subject as well, is like I am very motivated by fear. That's like a big like motivator for me, to the point where like I don't know if it's necessarily bad all the time. However, like so for with the podcast and like coming into the studio, like, oh, if I'm not recording something every time I'm in the studio, well then the studio is a waste and I need to pull out of it. Right? So what's a truth and what's a lie? Like that is totally not true. Yes, this is my studio and I use it to record. However, it's also a safe place, a sanctuary for me to where I can get out of the house and have my own space to just hang out and just, kind of relax a little bit. I don't always need to be in here recording something. And anytime I'm in the studio, I'm always kind of piddling around with little stuff, whether it's, posting videos, working on social media stuff. Like, so I'm always doing something. But again, that if I'm not doing this every single time, well, then I'm not doing it good enough and I'm not doing enough. And then, that you can see how the cycle just kind of starts to spin. That vortex kind of picks up speed. And then it just, next thing you know, I'm in the inner circle. And that's a place, obviously, like, that's not where I want to be. That is not where I want to be at all. So just, trying to challenge that. Like, I know I said this already, but, like, it's okay that every episode's not new and shiny. Like, this is part of my process. For me, the process is just coming in, sharing it with everybody out there listening, and helping myself kind of process and work through it. And so I'm just, I'm going to continue to do that. And I really want to take this attitude of like, okay, well, hey, just keep doing it, man. Just keep coming in, keep putting it out. It doesn't necessarily mean that, because that's the other thing too, is like, I don't like how things look right now. So in my mind, it's that hustle mentality of, all right, well, I got to come in and I need to grind. I don't like how my life looks, so let me work harder, and then I will get to that point. So let me just hunker down, forget about self-care, and just grind. I read an article the other day. Talking about how, like, that hustle mentality that is in our society right now is actually, like, not good for us at all. And that if we sit here and say, all right, I'm going to grind and hustle until I make $1 million. Well, once I hit $1 million, that's not good enough. I want $5 million. So I got to keep hustling. I know I've already hit my one goal, but I got to keep hustling and keep pushing. And, I think that sometimes, it's okay to be in that mindset. However, if I stay in that mindset for too long, then my self-care can really go down the drain. And for me, like, focusing on self-care and doing what I need to do to take care of myself as far as like my basic needs go, my rest, exercise, things like that. Like that's honestly, like, that's more important to me than just grinding and pushing myself. And that, there's a bigger plan that I am unaware of, right? God has a plan for me. God has a plan for my life. He has a plan for what I'm doing in here. He has a plan for what I'm doing out there. Like, he's got a plan for me. And I don't know what that plan is, but that plan is on God's time, not my time. And that by saying to myself, okay, the harder I work, the quicker we're going to get to where we're going, that's me trying to play God. And that is not me giving it up to God, surrendering to God, and just accepting where I am and that, hey, this is just going to take some time. It's me trying to play God. And when I was in my addiction, like, I was trying to play God. And, I know that I'm not going to necessarily fall back into those, like, extreme old ways to where I'm using drugs and doing things like that. But it can totally lead me to act out sexually, right? Because that's still another escape for me. It's still another escape. And it's an escape that it's, sex addiction, it's just really interesting. Like, it's, in my mind, it's conflicting and confusing. Because with the drugs and alcohol, those did not add to my life in a positive way. Those were negative things in my life that I am totally okay with completely cutting out and never touching again. I can live my life and never snort another line of cocaine or have a sip of alcohol, and I'm going to be better off if I don't do those things. Then you bring in, like, the sex addiction aspect of things, and it's like, we are sexual beings by nature. God has given us and made us sexual beings for procreation, for pleasure, to solidify emotional bonds with partners. And, like, there's all these ways that, like, you can have healthy sex in your life. And so I'm sitting here going, well, it can be a healthy aspect, but it's also an unhealthy aspect. So, like, I don't really know. Well, and then for me, you add in, like, the religious upbringing, right? Of, like, sex is bad. But sex before marriage is bad. And it's not, it wasn't, like, the way that the sex talk for me basically went, if you're doing anything, more than kissing, like, that's sex, and that's bad. So then, here I am as an adult in recovery for sexual addiction. So therefore, I must be bad. And that all sex is bad, and I'm in recovery for sex addiction, so I am bad. And so it's like, not that I don't have a partner right now. So, there's really no way for me to, and I don't know if I want to say no way, but, because in my inner circle there, it's, no sex outside of a relationship, a committed relationship. So, if I'm not in a relationship with somebody, what does that look like for me? Like, obviously, like, I don't want to be looking at porn. I have some different opinions on, like, masturbation. So, like, I think that that's something that could be incorporated in a healthy way into my life. I I need to have more conversations around that. And that I see what I'm afraid to bring you that, and I am afraid to try to incorporate that in a healthy way in my life, because I am afraid that I'm going to abuse that. Because okay, so say I masturbate, right? And that's not in my inner circle. Like, okay, so it's not acting out, it's not relapsing. Yeah, maybe it's probably, middle circle. I wouldn't say that it would be outer circle for me anyway. So okay, so it's middle circle, which, middle circle is kind of those red flag areas of like, hey, what's going on? You've got things are a little off. And also it's, that orgasm, that dopamine release is totally, something that I can lean on. Like, what if I'm in a place where, like, yeah, maybe I could go out and exercise or make a phone call and try to get my needs met in a different way, but instead I'm just resorting to masturbation. And when I say masturbation, like, that does not involve porn at all. And then, I've talked to some CSATs about this too, and it's like, well, okay, can you do that without having any kind of fantasies in your head? Can you view that as like self-love? And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know for me. I think it's worth having some more conversations around. But it's been something that's kind of been on my mind. And again, those very confusing tapes of, okay, sex is bad unless you are married. I'm in recovery for sex addiction, so therefore I must be bad. So therefore all sex is bad, even if I agree and talk that, like, masturbation's okay. Because even that to me is like a form of sex with self. So therefore it's bad. I'm laughing at this. This is, it's, and thank God, like, I'm in a place in my recovery where, it's not so doom and gloom, and see how, like, even talking about this stuff right now, it's kind of, I can feel myself kind of wanting to dig at it and, like, really pick it apart and, like, really get to the bottom of it and, like, try to get an answer today, when it's like, okay, it's like, all right, so those thoughts that are out there, right? So what I need to do is just put them out there, give them up to my higher power, take a step back, try to take my hands off of it, and just, okay, we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm ready to move anything out of my inner circle or anything like that, but just, again, these are, recovery evolves, it changes, and, I'm in a place now where, I work a pretty good program, and I have pretty much routine with things. I'm very connected. Meetings, prayer, checking in with myself, awareness of self. Like, I've got a lot of, like, really good aspects to my recovery. However, like, I still really struggle with urges, and I really struggle. I really struggle, and by no means do I think that, like, oh, you should, you're far enough along, you shouldn't be struggling, because that's a lie. I think that with this addiction, I think there's always going to be some kind of struggle. Sure, it may not be like a 9 out of 10, but I think that there's always going to be some kind of struggle there. Now, also, too, I also realized that, like, I'm kicking up a lot of things. I've also got a lot of new things going on in my life, school, a possible career change here, in the not so distant future, which is scary, really scary. Because I'll be honest, like, I'm not sure what I want to do with this certification to become a recovery coach. I don't know. And I've found myself kind of, like, reading into those thoughts of like, well, do I really want to go into the drug and alcohol industry? Like, maybe I should. I don't know if I really want to, though. When it's like, first off, we're not there yet, right? Like, I don't have to make a decision on that. We're not there yet. There's a lot of time between now and then, even though it's going to be here quicker than we know it, because we all know that's how time works, you know. Things just happen like that. Close your eyes, next thing you know, you're a year down the road. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought there a little bit. So, you know, there's a lot of changes in my life. You know, taking over the studio, getting on YouTube. Like, you know, I think another one of those big things too for me is like my home life, and that, you know, I live with my mom, and you know, I want to move out. However, I think in today's housing market, and with where I'm at job wise, like it doesn't make sense. And so accepting that, right? Like accepting that it's okay to be where I'm at right now. It's okay to be at my mom's house. I also think too, in our society, you know, if you're in your 30s and you live with your parents, like that is almost like looked down upon. And I know that I can definitely like buy into that shame and guilt around that, when it's like there's really nothing wrong with that at all. Like, now, I would be a little bit more concerned if it was like, okay, yeah, hey, I live with my mom, and you know what? I'm going to ride this wave. I'm going to probably just stay here forever. Honestly, like I'll just stay here forever. That's not the case. Like, I have aspirations and ambitions and goals to move out and get my own space and be out on my own, because I really do want that. It's just, I think for me right now, it's not in the cards, and I've put a lot of time in thinking into that. I've had conversations around that. I mean, maybe I need to have some more so that I can find some acceptance for myself. Because I have a really hard time of just like accepting that, like, okay, where you are today is exactly where you're supposed to be. So if there's anybody out there that's struggling with that right now, just know that like where you are is exactly where you're supposed to be. Just like where I am is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And that, you know, more shall be revealed. So I'm definitely like, my brain it's very conflicted. It's very torn right now with some things. I'm finding myself just kind of in these back and forth conversation battles in my head around, you know, what should I be doing versus like what I am doing. And you know, I know that there's a lot of people out there that can relate, that like we're just our own worst critics in our head. I am just so hard on myself. So hard on myself. I'm not this hard on other people. People are not this hard on me. I'm just really, really hard on myself, to where like it's kind of ugly, some of the things that I tell myself sometimes, or just the views that I have on myself. Now, they're not all the time. You know, it depends on, you know, where's my sleep at. You know, how am I doing exercise? Why? Like, am I taking care of myself? Because when I'm not taking care of myself, those voices just get louder and louder and louder. And it's not so easy to have that objective view of like, okay, you're not your thoughts. Like, okay, something's going on. You're not your thoughts. It's okay. Like that kind of grace and compassion for myself around some of these thoughts and feelings. And that, like, it's okay to have these thoughts. Like, I'm not my thoughts. You are not your thoughts. Like, we're not. And it's okay to have them. We're human beings. Like, they pop up, and clearly, you know, those are signs of like, okay, what's going on? Let's look at things. Let's leave the shovel where it is for right now. but let's just kind of sift through it a little bit, almost like that's kind of like some of the wordage that I've been using around things that pop up is like I'm sifting through them, right? Like just like and I picture a guy on the side of a river with a gold pan, and slowly he's taking one, instead of bringing on the excavator and just digging a deep hole and getting all the way down to the bottom. It's like one shovelful at a time into the sifter. Let's sift through it. Let's see if we got anything. And that's its whole process in itself. And so I think that as long as I'm aware and kind of sifting through things, I don't need to just automatically dig, because that still is kind of digging. It's just not as intense of, we got to get to it right now. To me, that's a little bit more patient with myself, a little bit more grace and compassion involved in that as well. It's just like sifting. And it's interesting how, in my recovery, like those terms and words have changed when I use to describe where I'm at. I know the other day I was talking to Jeff, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm trying my best. No, wait, I'm doing the best that I can. Right? Like trying to eliminate that try, because I'm not trying, I'm doing. Just like anybody out there listening, like you're not trying, you're doing. You're doing the best you can with what you have. And some days that's going to look different day to day to day to day. It's all going to look different. And yesterday's best might look different than today's best. Tomorrow's best is going to look different than today's best, and that is all okay. And again, I can tell other people this, and I can sit here and tell you guys this, but I have a hard time telling myself that. A hard time telling myself that. Or not believing. Because I believe. I believe that I am enough. It's just that feeling, right? They talk about the furthest distance is between the head and the heart, right? Knowing and feeling are two different things for me. And I think that's true for a lot of people. Is that I can believe these things. I'm very intellectual and analytical. Like, I believe these things, but it doesn't mean that I feel it. And that my goal is to get to a place where, like, I can feel that. And I know that I'm doing a lot better with some of that stuff. Like, I was thinking yesterday, there was a meme that was shared in one of my program text groups, and it just basically talked about like this is a journey, and there's no destination, and it was kind of like, I don't know, it just really kind of got me thinking. And someone was responding to it, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to be doing this till I'm 80, and this is going to take me a long time. And I kind of sat back and thought about this, like, life in recovery is truly a journey, and that there's no destination, and that the destination is when they're lowering you into the ground, and as a guy used to say, patting me in the face with a shovel. And so I was thinking about that, and something that like Jeff and I talked about, this is a while ago, talking about like, wanting to be in a relationship, but man, I got a lot of stuff that I need to figure out before I'm even ready for a relationship. And he said something to me. He said, Alex, when they work on a bridge, they don't always shut the entire bridge down to fix it. They'll close one side down, and traffic can still go through on one side. And then when they're done with that side, they'll go shut the other side down and open up that side to traffic. And so I took that and kind of made it into my own a little bit around like recovery is like road construction for roads, right? Like there's always going to be some kind of maintenance that needs to be done. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a heavy duty overhaul. Sometimes it's just repainting the lines or filling in potholes. There is a certain amount of maintenance that needs to be done on things just at all times. Doesn't mean that it's this doom and gloom type of thing. No, we have to maintain our roads in order for them to be drivable. If they're not drivable, well, then people are going to get hurt. They're going to have to find, new. Well, I don't even know where I was trying to go with that. But so to me, my life in recovery means there's always going to be maintenance that needs to be done. There's always going to be lines that need to be repainted, potholes to be filled. Sure, maybe there's times where I'm going to need to do some overhauls. However, traffic is still going to flow. Life's still going to happen. Traffic's going to flow. I'm going to flow. But there's always going to be maintenance that needs to be done. And the way that I look at that today, opposed to a year ago, 2 years ago, is so much different. There is way more hope in that. Like, I'm almost like excited that I get to do this maintenance. Like, oh wow! Like, so you're telling me that I get the opportunity and the experience to continue to learn about myself and heal myself? Well, sign me up. Like, that's what I want to be doing. I want to be doing that work. I want to consistently be doing the work that I need to be doing in recovery and getting to know myself. Because the more that I know myself, the more that I can love myself, offer myself that love, and heal from the wounds that run very, very deeply inside of me. And become my own person and love that person. And build something for myself that I can hang my hat on. And I've already done that, right? Like, I'm not saying I haven't done that, because I've totally done that with certain things in my life. I mean, this podcast is one of them. I've done this. I've built this. And I'm continuing to maintain it. Paint the lines. Fill in the potholes. I don't always have to redirect traffic in order to maintain things. And with those maintenance, there are end dates for them, right? Like when they start working on a road, yeah, sure. Sometimes where I'm at, it seems like they're always working on a road, but there's always an end date, right? There's always going to be a time where, like, oh, okay, they're working on this road, and then a certain amount of time goes by, and they're no longer working on that road anymore. The yellow cones are gone. The guys holding the sticks are gone. The trucks are gone. The road looks good until it needs to be maintained again. And, yeah, I don't have end dates for the maintenance. I don't know when it's going to end. I don't have a date. It's not like I can look in my calendar right now and say, oh, okay, yeah. So though that fear motivation that drives you, okay, yeah, here in 6 months, we're actually going to be able to pack up shop, and it's going to be, we'll take the trucks back to the shop and we'll start on something else because that's going to be done, right? That's a road that I'm going to need to maintain. Sobriety, a road that I'm going to need to maintain. Connection, a road that I'm going to need to maintain. The tapes and the trauma and the wounds inside of me, all roads that I need to maintain. However, now I have the tools and the support and the connection to help me through that maintenance. I got to stay up on the maintenance. If I don't stay up on the maintenance, that's when I'm in trouble. Again, self-care, another road that I need to maintain. And again, the way that I'm looking at it is not like, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed with all this road maintenance. It's more like, wow, I'm kind of excited to dig in. Because the more maintenance I do is going to show me those underlying problems. It's going to show me those underlying issues. By stripping off that top layer of asphalt, I'm going to get to see what's underneath that and what's there. Oh, is it a minor problem or is it a major problem? Okay, and then we cross that bridge when we get there. So I just, for me, the maintenance is something that, now, not every day do I look forward to it by any means, not every day at all. However, there are some days where I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I get to do this. Not everybody says that, and one of the one of the pros of being single right now for me is that I have nothing but time to give myself and nothing but time to put in maintaining my roads. Right? Like, I don't have to worry about a partner's roads or anything like that. Like, I have all the time in the world to focus on my roads and what needs to be maintained for me. And so, like, I'll be honest, like, that is, even though, like, don't get me wrong, like, I want to be in a relationship. However, it is a bonus, a pro, that I'm not in one. And that I get this time. Earlier on in recovery, one of my drug counselors was like, you need to look at this as an opportunity to go out and do the things that you want to do and not have to worry about checking in with somebody to check the schedule and things like that. And at first, I'll be honest, I kind of rolled my eyes at her a little bit. I was like, yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, I hear the spirit of it, but I'm going to be honest, I just don't feel that way. And now looking back on that, I'm like, yeah, I mean, she was totally right, and I knew that. I knew that in the moment. I knew she was totally right. I just wasn't feeling that at all. But now that I'm kind of in that spot where I'm like, all right, cool. Like for instance, like last week, I was in a meeting, and I got a text asking me if I could play hockey the next morning because they needed a goalie, and they asked me if I could play. I'm a single guy with no kids. Absolutely, I can play. What time? Tell me what time, and I'll be there. So, and then again, that goes into, putting the time in here in the podcast, putting the time in on myself, putting the time in with my relationships, to just further strengthen and grow those bonds. And that because I'm single, I get more time to do those things and not have to, worry about somebody else's feelings. And I don't know why, but that feels like I'm being insensitive when I say that. However, I'm not being insensitive when I say that. Like, it's not like I have a partner and I'm just like, I don't care what you want to do. I'm going to do everything that I want to do. Good luck with what you got going on, because I wouldn't be like that at all. That's not how I would operate in a relationship. I'm just saying, like, with where I'm at right now, it is a blessing, and I am grateful for the time that I have for myself and to be with myself. Again, this is just an opportunity to maintain, right? Like, I'm stripping off the layers of asphalt every single day. New layers are coming off. And it's okay. Like, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. More shall be revealed. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm okay with that. Like, with where I'm at today, now check in with me tomorrow. Definitely check in with me tomorrow, or even later today. But you know what? Like, with where I'm at, like, I'm running on my own schedule. It's up to me what I do, which, though, that at times can be very challenging. Like, realizing that as an addict in recovery, I thrive with routine and structure. And so on the weekends, I struggle. Sundays are kind of like my hardest days of the week because there really isn't much routine and structure. There's routine, don't get me wrong. There's definitely routine. However, that routine doesn't take me long, right? Basically, all that it is like I need to go for a run or a walk. And then that takes me, 45 minutes, an hour, 30 minutes, whatever it is that day, whatever I'm doing that day. And then it's like, okay, the rest of my day is wide open. What are we going to do? And so that can have me, feeling very bored, very lonely. And so, it's, again, sifting through it. Okay, let's look at it. What can we do? I don't need to throw the shovel at it and say, okay, well, we need to overhaul this road completely. Blow the road up and overhaul it. No. Let's keep the road there. No need to bust out the dynamite. No need to bust out the heavy machinery just yet. Let's inspect. Let's sift through it. And let's see, what we can tweak. Maybe we need to add a turn lane here. Maybe we need to do some shoulder work here. Side note, I kind of like that I've stuck with this whole metaphor around like maintaining roads. It makes a lot of sense to me. Anyway, so, okay, what can I do to maintain? Sure, maybe there's some upgrades that need to be made. However, it's not throw the kitchen sink at it and blow everything up and just start over, right? Like I've got a solid base, a solid foundation from where I'm working with everything that I'm doing. So, okay, let's just go from there and maintain and add on if we need to. But again, that foundation, that road's already there. I'm not building a new road, which is a whole other process that, that someone needs to go through. I'm not building a new road. I'm just maintaining one that I already have. And sure, maybe looking at it, maybe it needs to be rerouted through different neighborhoods, but again, it comes down to like maintenance, sifting through it, peeling back just the thin layers and seeing what's there. And then giving it up to God. That's one of the biggest things that, I need to make sure that I'm consistent with in my recovery is surrendering, accepting where I'm at, and surrendering whatever it is that I'm dealing with to my higher power. And asking for my higher power for connection, or not connection, guidance. Connected to my higher power, asking for guidance. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah. And the more that I can, I talked to a guy yesterday that was in a tough spot. And, I mentioned to him, he was having some issues around, he was dating a girl, she wasn't texting him back, and I can totally relate. I get into these places, if I don't hear back from somebody, I'm like, oh God, I'm not, is mainly in the female partner aspect of things. It's like, oh, she's not texting me back. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I'm not good enough. I didn't say the right thing there. I could really relate to where this guy was at, and you could tell that his brain was moving and things were pretty close to being on fire. And I said, okay, man, well, hey, how about this? How about you just give it up to your higher power? And I said, you may have to give this thing up 100 times today. You may catch yourself buying into those thoughts and pulling out of that well that you may need to give this up 75, 100, 150 times today. I said, but you know what that brings you, though? I said that sounds a little overwhelming. Absolutely. But you know what that brings you, though? That brings you connection to your higher power. The more that I can offer things up to my higher power, the more connected I am. If I'm not giving things up to my higher power, if I'm not surrendering to my higher power, well, then how connected am I to my higher power? So the more that I can surrender and give up to him or her or nature, whatever your higher power is, the more that I can surrender to my higher power, the more connected I am, which then leaves me better off in a better spiritual place. Because again, I truly believe, I've heard this a lot, that this truly is a spiritual program. And that I need that connection in my life. That is one of the key pillars of recovery, at least in my opinion, and I know that is true for me. One of my pillars has to be spirituality, higher power, connected to my higher power, conscious contact with my higher power. So again, the more that I can give something up, the more time I'm spending with my higher power, even if it is just a quick, God, I got to surrender this. I got to give this up to you. I'm really struggling with this. God, help me work through this. If that's all that it is, but if you do that 100 times in a day, and I hope that those days are few and far between, right? Because I know what it's like to be in that place where I just feel like, oh my God, I've given this up 200 times today. That in its own self can be very overwhelming. very overwhelming. But you know what? We have days like that. That is the reality. We have days like that. I have days where I'm good and I'm okay and I'm still connected. And then there's days where I need to surrender everything. Or there's a certain thing that I'm just really dwelling on and being obsessive about. And again, the more that I can do it, the better. And that's also something else that I've struggled with in the past. I'm doing a lot better with this. Actually, I kind of noticed this yesterday was, I really only was surrendering things to my higher power when I was in a bad place and wanted out and wanted the pain to stop. I always want the pain to stop. Because I feel like lately there's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of pain. I just got hit with something there. I don't know. I think just bringing up that word pain just reminds me that I still got a lot of it. I still got a lot of pain. I still got a lot of things I need to sift through. And this is one of those instances where it's like, okay, God, I'm hurting. And I ask that you just help me give it up to you. And I ask that you just guide me through this. Guide me through this. Thank you for your love, God. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. And I ask that you just help me navigate this and that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. That's kind of what that looks like sometimes. I was not expecting that at all. I'm grateful for it though, because again, it shows me that I've been in a pretty decent place the last couple days, but there's always something lurking. There's always something under the surface that's lurking. There's something that's going on there, and you know what? I'm not gonna pull the shovel out. Again, off the top of my head, I got a lot of things going on right now, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that I'm very unsure of right now. And I don't like that. I'm an addict. It makes so much sense. And I'm happy that I can, again, laugh about this stuff too. Sometimes it's like, yeah, oh yeah, that's why I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I am the way that I am. Because I'm an addict. And I'm so much more than that though too, right? I'm so much more than that. So much more than just an addict. I got a lot going for me. I got a lot that I bring to the table. That is part of me, yes, but I've got so much more than that. But kind of back to what I was saying was, earlier on in recovery, it was, that desperation around, like, God, help me through this really came on the bad days. And then in the good days, it'd kind of be like, oh, man, I'm okay. I don't know if I really need to surrender anything. I'm in a good place. Okay, cool. And then, I'd go all day without talking to God, and, we don't have to constantly be talking to our higher power. However, it's not bad practice if you are. It's really not bad, but it's not going to hurt you at all. Not at all. Whatever your higher power is, loves to be connected to you too. And wants to be connected to you too. I know my higher power wants to be connected to me and everything that I do. And he's involved in everything that I do. I just don't always invite him in. So if I'm in a good place, in the past, it used to not be so much inviting him in. Whereas, so yesterday, for instance, I was in a pretty decent place. And I caught myself a couple times throughout the day just being like, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for the attitude today. Thank you, God, for the mood. Thank you. Thank you for, again, I got that phone call from that guy that I got to talk to and kind of help out a little bit. Like service. That's huge for me. That helps get me out of my mess that's going on in my head. And that if I can be there for somebody else, that helps me feel better about myself. Because I get so stuck in this mess in my head that like, oh, I got this mess in my head. I'm a mess. And it's like, when I can help somebody else and get out of my own mess, my mess doesn't look so messy anymore. Because if I truly was a total mess, I would not be able to be there for people, and I can be there for people. And so, like, I like that. I like that a lot, and just more shall be revealed. Just keep going, keep coming back, and I'm going to keep coming back. That's part of the plan. I get to keep coming back. I get to keep coming back to these experiences. I get to maintain these roads. I get to do that. And without this program, I don't think that I would have those opportunities. Because with this program comes awareness, connection, love, support, tools. Right? Try maintaining a road without the right tools. You ain't going to maintain nothing. So I'm really thankful for what the program and the work that I've done have given me in order to maintain these roads. And I'm going to continue to maintain these roads even on days where I just don't feel like doing it, or I don't find the joy in it, or I don't find the hope in it. I'm going to continue to maintain them because that's what I have to do. I don't want to go back to that old life. I don't want to. I truly don't. I want to move forward, and I want to live up to my potential. I've got a lot of potential, and I just want to live up to that, and I want everybody that I come in contact with, or even if I don't come in contact with, everybody out there listening, like I want everybody to reach their full potential because we are so much more than our problems. We are so much more than our struggles. You are worth it. I am worth it. I deserve more love, not less. You deserve more love, not less. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Guys, thank you so much for listening, for tuning in, for watching on YouTube, for streaming on Spotify. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go subscribe to the channel. That would really help me out a whole lot. It is no_lions_ here on Instagram, YouTube, and on Spotify, no lions here. Guys, if there's any topics that you want to hear me speak about, please feel free to email me, nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, that's nolionshere@gmail.com. I love getting emails from listeners. I love it. It makes my day. I'm like a kid on Christmas morning when I open up that Gmail box, and I've got emails from listeners reaching out, telling me how much they enjoy the show or, whatever it is. I love hearing from listeners. So definitely please make sure to reach out. Again, that is nolionshere@gmail.com. Again, nolionshere@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me to be heard every time I sit in front of this microphone. So I'm going to keep coming back. Keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Ja, non succès.